Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. And thank you for joining us here at T3 Handicapping for a breakdown of the full card. We're going to do a little lightning round here, closing day from Churchill Downs. Thank you for your continued support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you click the like and subscribe button on this video so you can get updates about all of our new content. With this being the closing day from Churchill, Indiana Grand is done. I'm kind of opening things up a little bit here. I'm a bit of a free agent, so if you have a particular track that you're interested in over the winter, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what track you'd like me to do these videos for, and if it's one that we're covering already in our picks, I will be sure to try and put some video content together for that particular track. So let your voice be heard, and let me know where would you like to have some video breakdowns for the upcoming winter meets. We've got places like Oaklawn, Gulfstream, tons of different options. Santa Anita will be coming back online at some point, so let me know down in the comments section below, where do you want to see these videos go next after closing day at Churchill Downs. All right, before we jump into things here for the card, just a reminder, you can get all of our stuff, including memberships, to get access to all of our picks at t3handicapping.weebly.com. One thing I did on the site that's new is I actually gave you access to the results, whether you're a member or not. So you can actually click on the button on the past performances page, and you can see all of our past pick sheets. You can go through and you can see how we did in the races, not just how many winners we had, but you can see how many times our top selection hit the board and things like that. So feel free to check that out. I always link my betting news articles in there as well. Lots of fun things for you to do and gain access to on that website. I do also have track profiles for all the tracks that we cover. If you're looking for more content, you can always find us here on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Twitter. Facebook is T3 Handicapping, and Twitter is @HandicappingT3. Always love interacting with people there. So without further ado, let's jump into a 12-race final card from Churchill Downs. It's been a really good meet. I had a really good day yesterday. I'm hoping you did as well. A lot of our picks were spot on. There were some big scratches that sort of changed things up a little bit, but overall, hopefully you were able to land on some of the same horses as well. So let's take a look here at our first race, race number 1, class level 19. We're getting a lot of the local horses here, so you're going to notice the class levels are a little bit higher today than they would be on most days. 8.5 furlongs, moderate paced race here. My numbers show that the 1 is really superior, but using a couple of different metrics, I also really like the 4 and the 5. Nothing surprising there. We are looking at the top ones in the tote here as well. I do think Heavenly Hellos is also kind of interesting in this spot and should be used underneath, but I have that one significantly behind the rest of this group when it comes to utilizing. One thing I am noticing a little bit, or noticed a little bit more today, is that the current makeup of the track seems to be allowing for less of that speed bias that we saw, and allowing horses to at least make up a little bit more ground in certain situations. So I'm not as concerned about that as I was previously. It seems like right now, if you've got a good rider who understands the track, they're able to get home. So I wouldn't let that dissuade me, especially through the early part of the card tomorrow, just because we saw a little trend reversal on throughout the day on Saturday, and we'll maybe look for that to continue. If it does look like it's going back to inside speed, that could totally impact how I play the latter half of this card. So moving on here to race number 2, we're going to be moving through these pretty quick. It is the lightning round after all. This is class level 9, so these are some decent horses. We're going 8.5 furlongs. It looks to be a really hot pace up front, and that's why I want to include more than just David's Gem. I do really like David's Gem. I think David's Gem in most cases, if I wasn't so worried about speed holding from the races on Saturday, I probably would have just been all in on David's Gem, but I'm going to use Lord Dragon as well. Again, I'm doing nothing creative here. I'm taking the top 2 on the morning line, and I'm going to add in the third choice on the morning line, but I should pretty much have the top 3 places as they're coming for home well covered, whether it be more of a early speed type run, a stalk and pounce, or a mid pack. I think I've got the best of each, and that's going to allow me to move forward. Nothing significant here. Given my selections in the first and second, I love to play the doubles. I don't think I'll probably play much on the doubles early unless I just kind of take my top picks in both and single them heavy. Moving on to race number 3. Now here we're getting into the real fun ones. Class level 22, throw a dart. 6.5 furlongs. You've got a really slow pace that looks to be projected, but that's mostly, again, as we've talked about several times before, if you've watched these videos, these unknown run styles don't really help us. I'm going to end up 6 deep in this one when all is said and done before scratches. I'm using the 4. That's Know How I Know. I'm going to use that one in the A position, and I will also use Cachirulo as well, and that's going to be more of a front-running type at 9-2. I think that's a good price on that one. I am not going to use Cloud Creek on top. I'm going to use that one underneath as more of a C selection. Paint Your Wagon, I think, is very interesting. If you go back and look at the past performances, I think there's a couple of sneaky angles that suggest that that one should be better than 9-2, and I'm guessing that when the gates open, it will be. I do think Madeline's Heat and Ike and Jack have some really interesting possibilities as well. Madeline's Heat is a little bit more of an insider, whereas Ike and Jack kind of has a little bit of a speed and fade that I liked from one of the previous races, or from one of the previous events. So that's going to be the one that I'll be looking to round out my trifectas and supers with. So the 10 horse is going to be used as well. I do think this race is wide open, though. I would not lean too heavily on the favorites. Like the number 4. I know I've got it as one of my top selections, but I do think that if you have any opinion in this race, it's a good opinion. I just don't think there's a lot of class to this field, and that always leaves things open for upsets. Coming in here, this is where I have a slightly contrarian opinion. It's nothing major, but I do like here in a slow-paced race, with everybody having established run styles, I like American Union to get out on the front end, be near the pace, and then hopefully have something left in the tank at the end. I do have that this one has decent stamina numbers. I also like the 4, Mr. Quality. I actually think at 8-1, Mr. Quality is a steal. If that price holds, I may even move that 4 up onto the A line, just because I think it's such great value. But I do think it could take a little bit of a pounding. And then I would have it on the B line. The number 3 Convection is also interesting, should be sitting just off the pace. And then I think Petit Verdot is my most likely horse to take the field around. Just go wire to wire on this group and take them there. So I think these are all eligible horses. And I should clarify, when I put horses on the B line, they basically get included on almost every ticket, unless there's just a super big favorite on the A that I like, or I should say a super well handicapped horse that I have as an A. I usually use A's and B's on every ticket. The C's are the one that I will use more sporadically. So when I'm kind of ranking these out, it's just to establish really more of a difference between who I like the most and who I don't. And who I don't like maybe quite as much, but A's and B's will be on my ticket. I'm not going to leave B's off unless they just become undervalued. So, or I should say, yeah, undervalued. Class level 6, so actually some pretty good horses here. You might recognize some names. Jack Van Berg, 3 Technique. Some of those, Boom 5000 is one, comes in from some smaller circuits. I'm going to go here with Our Nation Parade and 3 Technique as my top 2 selections. It does look like the pace could be pretty quick up top, and that's where I like 3 Technique to kind of wear everybody down. And then Our Nation Parade should be sort of in that stock and pounce trip if the pace doesn't heat up too badly. Jack Van Berg is another one that I think you have to honestly respect in that spot as well. I know has not necessarily been the superstar that maybe it was supposed to be, but still has been very productive and very solid. I want to use that one. Full Authority, I think, is probably my most contrarian opinion, maybe Best of Greeley as well, 6-1 and 8-1. But I basically have in this race the top 6 on the morning line covered. And I think that's pretty representative of how the verticals will go. I don't think you're going to need to go much beyond the 6th ranked horse to put together a really good vertical. I think that's going to be plenty. I think that race should turn out very formful in the end. This is race 6, class level 15 on the dirt. Another slow pace. A couple of unknowns here, but most of them have at least some established pace. But that can be a little misleading because if they have one race where they're competitive, a lot of times the metrics pick that up and say, oh yeah, this is a closing type. Well, no, they hopped at the start, and so they became a closer because that was what they had to do, and they were a good horse and they just couldn't get there. So in this race, I really like Surfer Dude. Surfer Dude is going to be on the front with these lighter raced horses. I always like horses that are going to be on the front, and I think this one could have a pretty big advantage. You can see there when it comes to race flow. That's the one that I want to use. If the pace gets heated up, if people get brave and decide to go with Surfer Dude, then I think you could see Winterwood coming in, making a closing run. I do think Timeless Joke, who I have on the B line, could do that as well. I really like Kapuna as sort of a long shot. When you compare to like Winterwood and Timeless Joke, I think 7 is an interesting one that you want to keep on there. I think even using like the 6 with the 7 in exactas and things like that could be really helpful and could actually give you some value. Gunfighter is one that's been on my radar recently, and I'm going to give that one a shot here as well. And then the number 11 is Call Me Jamal. Call Me Jamal, I believe, was scratched out of a previous race recently. Did not draw in from an also eligible list. Maybe on Falls City Day, I want to say. But now is entered here and should get front running speed. The only concern with that one is coming from the 11 post. It's going to be tough to do. Race number 7 of 12, class level 19. So again, not great horses here if you're new to the channel. The higher those numbers, the worse they are. So 19 is not traditionally a good number, especially at Churchill, where a lot of their races are 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. In this one, I love the 13. The 13 is a speed horse from the outside, which is a little concerning, but at the same time, it doesn't bother me too much. I would use Promises to Dance if that one draws in. If not, this board is going to open way up. My B line right now has Ari Oakley, Madeline's Magic, and Old Foe. I like where Old Foe is drawn. Out of those horses, that's the one I like the most. I think that one could get a really nice pace setup. Try and get to the front and maybe could come home with a flourish, still have something left in the tank. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see how scratches determine this one. I do like Run for the Hills as well. I think the horse has a decent shot against this group. I mean, I think this horse is better than a lot of these horses. The question is, even if it draws in, it's going to draw into the 12 post. It would require multiple scratches to even get to that point. If it gets to 12 post, I don't know, given that the 13 is also going to need to gun it, and the 8's going to go, and we don't really have established numbers, but I think Madeline's Magic could show a little bit more speed. So my concern with the 15 and the reason it ended up on the C line is I just don't know if this horse is going to be able to get the trip it needs. I think it's going to get hung wide, and that's going to become problematic. So outside of that, just kind of doing a quick look through here to see if there's anybody that I liked that I didn't mention here. Again, a reminder, these grades are a combination of the algorithm that we use, as well as some of just my own personal kind of old school handicapping techniques, and then a handicapper that I trust really well, and I kind of combine them into an aggregate. So there are a lot of horses that I kind of like that as I was going through, I kind of marked them and said, yeah, this is a horse I'd like to use, and then because they didn't get a score that was high enough from the other two, they don't show up here. That's just kind of the way that I found that helps me narrow down my selections a little bit more. But there might be other interesting options that I don't have here. This one, class level 7, so you would expect it to be a little bit more formful, but I actually think this is one of your more wide open races here. I like overall the number 3, Caught Looking, and the number 8, Premier Wish. These are both sort of mid-pack horses. I think could make good jumps here and get the job done late. I think this is going to be faster than a moderate pace. That's just my interpretation of it. I'm just kind of getting the sense that with so many horses that like to be forward, that the pace could set up very quickly. I think horses, when they get slow paces, it's usually because they cleared off and they had nobody, and so they kind of waited on other horses to come get them. If there's 8 horses, even if they're all within a length or two, I think they're going to all run together as a pack. And if you can sit back, a length or two off of that group and get connected to them after they've run really hard, I think he can get by. So that's why I'm going heavily with the mid-pack runners there. I do like Shelby. I think Shelby's actually really interesting, and if the pace really slows down, I think that's the one you're going to want. Off We Go is obviously also very talented. 6 furlongs should have plenty of time to get over from the 12 post, so I wouldn't let that dissuade you from that one too much. Those are the four I'm going to be most through. I do think Loot, Scoot, and Boogie is another one that's kind of interesting. I don't like it more than the other ones, obviously, but I think it's interesting as a possibility. And then I like the 9 and the 11, so that's Busy Echo and Sweet Queen Bee, because I do think they're going to be forwardly placed. They're going to be horses that are going to be on the front end, that are going to be looking to create. And if nobody chooses to go, I think those are the two that could kind of squirt away. I'm not as worried about Shania doing that. I just don't think it's as fast as Busy Echo or Sweet Queen Bee. I guess my numbers do have Shania being a little bit stronger than. But I just kind of liked some of the numbers that I was seeing from that one in the past performances, and so that's the one I would go with there. You can see on form that 11 horse looks like it could be ready. The other one I haven't mentioned yet is La Turista. That's a big long shot, would take something special to win, but I do think it's interesting, and you can see the speed figures aren't that far off. The form looks really good right now and should show enough early pace to be in contention late. Moving on, race number 9, we have class level 15, 8.5 furlongs on dirt with a moderate pace. For me, on this one, you can see OP Firecracker did not rate out super well on my numbers alone. Did get an A grade, but a low A and A minus. But based on everything that kind of through my own handicapping, as well as, like I said, input from a handicapper that I trust, OP Firecracker comes in as the lone A top selection, pretty well clear. I do also have Napa Valley and Monologue as horses that I like. Napa Valley is an interesting one because it is going to be coming from the middle of the pack, and it's going to be quite a price. But I think there's enough like really sneaky angles here where if I can get close to 20-1, which I think I will on that horse, I think there's just great value there. And so I want to make sure I have that ticket because that's the kind of horse that can really separate you and create great value. I think there are a lot of horses, though, honestly, that could win this race. I mean, One More Baby I have on the C line. Encourage, I think, has a shot. Number 4, Good Soldier, I think could upset at a price. The 8 horse is Bold Looker, who I think is interesting and has a lot of unknowns. And then 11, Lake Tahoe, is going to be forwardly placed. I think is the best bet to really apply some pressure to the pace here. Could actually get that inside speed trip if you believe the numbers. I mean, OP Firecracker is a closer, but could be up near the front. But I think 11, without any other confirmed speed here, could just run off, try and come down over. And the 13 is certainly hoping for that to happen, because otherwise that 13 could get caught out way wide. 8.5 furlongs. They're going to have to do it quickly from those outside posts. Class level 6 here, race number 10 kicks off the late pick 3. This is about as fast a race as you can have, and you'll notice that next to the A I have this up arrow. So one of the things that happens sometimes is a race is so wide open that when you put all of the consensus picks together from myself and the T3 algorithm and the handicapper that I use, when you put all three things together, we just don't agree on anything. And so this race actually did not have any horses that came out on the A line when you kind of combined our picks together. And so that to me just suggests this race is wide open. I want to have all 7 of these horses somewhere if I'm going to play this race. The 5, Cody's Wish, had a great feel-good story, winning, I believe it was his last race out. Irish Unity is going to be on the front, which normally I like. In this spot, that could be a little dicey. Ducale, Ducale's fine. I don't like Ducale at 2-1, to be honest. I'd rather have Cody's Wish personally, even at the 9-5 price. So I don't know. Ducale, I struggle with. The horse makes sense on paper, but it doesn't strike me enough to where I think 2-1 is merited, and that's just tough. Bourbon War, I think, is interesting based on some of our metrics. The form looks really good for that one. Been running against really good horses and should have enough foundation to get the job done here. Ram is one that kind of, I think, burst on the scene. I believe it was Derby Trail in the late stages, kind of came on and pulled some big upsets, and people kind of thought Ram was going to be the next big thing. Maybe it was right out of the Derby, kind of coming into those midsummer events. or late spring, midsummer. But a solid horse, and definitely against these looks good. Runway Magic is one that I like at a price, and Santa Cruzer's another kind of stock and pounce horse that I like at a price as well. That one actually is projected to get the best race flow along with Runway Magic. So take that for what it is. You'll notice I put a lot of stake in race flow. In these videos, I'll talk about it all the time. And the reason for that is anybody can look at speed figures, and everybody's speed figures are going to be relatively the same. Most people are going to have the first place finisher of a race running faster than the second place finisher, and so on and so forth. But when you get to race flow, it's just something a little different. And so I think that's something that gives me a little bit of separation from my competition. Moving on to the 11th race, class level 5, 7 furlongs on the dirt, projecting a slow pace here. I like Continuation and Frosted Grace as my top 2 selections. Continuation did get the highest possible grade, which is why it gets the star. That is one that I will definitely be using heavily. I do think Attachment Rate is an interesting horse. I struggle. It seems like when I like that horse doesn't do well, and then when I don't like that horse, it does well. So I'm going to put it on my ticket and almost assure that it doesn't get anywhere near the finish line. It will probably just barely trot across the line. But I think in this situation, if the pace heats up, this one could have a nice run of things to the finish. Number 9, Eben, sit mid-pack. Again, if things heat up, I think you've got a shot there. And Americanus as well, I think could be sitting in a very similar spot, good connections, and the record at the distance is good enough. Certainly should be a factor in the number, I think. And then we're going to finally close out our Churchill Downs card. It's been a fun meet. We've been turfless for a while, but that seems to work out really well for my numbers. And so coming on home, I'm going to go with Lady Traveler as my lone A here. Outside of that, I like a couple others. This race does project to be fast, so going with Lady Traveler as my lone A may be problematic. Surrealist is one that I think will challenge on the lead and could potentially get away. I do like Princess Lee and Lady Frosted as options to sit and pounce if the pace gets too hot. Others that I will be using, I'll be using Silver Strand. Again, that's another one that's going to be on that lead, which I don't love. Dame Cinco, another one that's going to be on that lead. Izu is actually really interesting at 20 to 1, going to sit mid-pack. And again, if a bunch of horses decide to go, that could become a problem. I also like Yes to Mischief. I've got a ton of front runners in this spot, and that's probably dangerous. But if you look back to the way this meet has played all year long, that speed has been holding. And so as many of those darts as you can have, the better off you're going to be. I'm a little nervous because I think, if you're looking at a New York turf race and it looks like their speed on paper, there's a pretty good chance they're going to run about 26 to the quarter and about 54 to the half, it seems like. They're going to let one long shot just run off and go. Churchill dirt races seem to be the opposite to me. It feels like if it looks like there's any speed in the race, that there's going to be an honest pace. Maybe it'll be one horse, maybe it'll be 12. That varies, but you can count on at least one jockey to be aggressive and to go, and that's been really apparent in this all dirt meet as well. So I'm going to try and bring it home with Lady Traveler. If not, I'll take a little bit of Lady Frosted, Princess Lee, and Surrealist, and hope that I can get out of here cashing a ticket. We'll use this as our get out race, and then be on our way to the winter adventures, wherever that may be. So again, good luck on your closing day from Churchill or wherever you may be playing. If you have any suggestions for what tracks we should go to next for our video analysis throughout the month of December, just go ahead and comment down below. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in tonight, today, whenever you're watching. Go ahead and cash those tickets. Let's get out of Churchill with some green in our pocket.